Today, it's Edwin's Monday evening property rant. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics, where I've noticed posts covering finance and problem news with a distinctively Australian flavour. It's Monday evening, a very windy Monday evening, and Edwin is being blown away. Hi Edwin, good to see you again.
I'm not blown away, Martin. I'm anchored down to the sofa, which is then anchored down to the studio, which is fixed well and truly to the mountains. But the rooster almost went over the fence.
Oh, it's been amazingly windy and cold here today. I took the dogs out earlier on, and they kept looking around, saying, "Who's blowing me up with your back end?"
Well, we'll see whose back end the RBA blows tomorrow. It's turbulent, Martin. That's one thing for sure. I think the weather's synonymous of what's happening at the moment with property. You've got out-of-line sales, as we spoke about a few weeks back, that we're going to get a lot of out-of-line sales over the next 3 months. Some will go higher than expected, which the mainstream media will pick up on those and will gas bag as much as they would like on those. But then there'll be the ones that will be reporting on the other out-of-line sales where the vendors are absolutely super motivated, which we'll talk about one today as well. And they'll get out. They'll just get out because they also see the opportunity to cash out and buy in wherever where they're committed, they just want to be committed or are committed, they'll buy there. So whatever the motivation is. So once you start analysing all this, but yeah, look, out there in Twitter artsy land, it's very, very turbulent. There's out on the roads, there's a lot of anger, frustration, anxiety, not knowing which way to turn. Around the meetings with friends and family dinners and lunches and so forth, it's really the talk is about energy prices, costs of living, getting children from private schools, taking them to public schools, how that's going to influence the property market. I will also touch on a bit about that later on as well. So yeah, it's very, very turbulent, and tomorrow is the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we will know what the RBA is going to do. I mean, it's pretty clear they're going to do something, but there's still a lot of debate as to whether it's 25 basis points or 40 basis points or 65 basis points or whatever, I mean, who knows? My own feeling is they'll probably do a bit more than 25 basis points, so I'm probably going for 40, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, look, let's wait and see what Santa Lowy brings in Christmas in June, July, but look, I think that to me, there's a little bit of a slight chance that they'll slip in a low rate rise, perhaps even below 25. Just to don't forget, our in this team are only in the honeymoon period still. So I don't know. It depends.
Who knows? Exactly right. Well, we'll know tomorrow, and I'm sure I'll be talking about it later in the week. In fact, I've got Chris Bates on tomorrow night. He's a mortgage broker in Sydney, so it'll be interesting to get his take on it tomorrow evening. And I'll put a link below for that show if you want to join live. Ask Chris a question because it's a really interesting time, and it's fascinating. I don't know whether you saw the AFR articles, but there were 2 or 3 that really started spelling doom and gloom for the property market. It really is a major change. I remember 0.35 at the moment. That's all, only 0.35. It's like, well, if you think that's going to be a problem now, wait for a little bit longer.
Yeah, if you think that's a knife, this is a knife. If you think that was a rate rise, wait till the next couple of months. But again, look, it's just one of those things. Just wait and see what the RBA do and whether or not they're going to be, let's say, allegedly influenced by the current government. Who knows? I mean, they live in a world of their own. I mean, they've screwed up the economy for so long. I mean, can they really see reality? We're going to also talk about reality. We're going to be talking about. We're going to introduce another segment to our show. Musconomics. It's what the WeChat chatters are talking about. About what Elon Musk is doing. They're following him very, very closely, particularly with his crypto trades and so forth. And but then again, there's a lot happening on the Twitter artsy friends that are posting online. So it's a wait and see. But let's see. Let's just keep on talking and keep on putting information out so that our followers can make decisions, make purchases or sales, whatever they're looking at, or even look for rentals and negotiate the rental agreements based on the information that we are freely giving to them. So hopefully it all works out for our followers, and they can take the best of what we share.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess anybody who's been following along with us in recent times will not be surprised by anything that's happening, right? Because we've pretty much been highlighting all of the issues as they've been developing, and in fact been ahead of the curve. And talking about ahead of the curve, what are the WeChat chatters now chattering about?
Well, look, there's a phenomenon that's occurring in mainland China. It's hush hush. You can't really talk about it on the mainstream, but look, they've got the ways of getting information out and sharing. These are the young people. It's pretty much the last generation movement, they call it. It's a next step. Further and beyond the tongue ping. If you recall, we spoke about the tongue ping generation. Basically, they don't see a future. It's all doom and gloom, and basically lay down and just YOLO. You only live once, so to speak. But this movement, the last generation movement, they're basically taking it a step further, and the economists in mainland China are really pissed off with this movement, and hence there's a real shutdown and a real government shutting down any chatter on any of the social media platforms there in China because it's really taboo. Basically, what they're saying is listen, we go through college, we go through university, we come out on the other end. If you recall, not too long ago there were close to 11 million. Graduates of university, of which 0.000001% would actually get a job. So the prospects of work is not there. They're basically saying, well, what's the point of even getting married? And the Chinese government is pushing, as you also know, they're pushing for to get married, to have children, to build the economy, blah blah. And they're saying, listen, I'll give you the middle finger because the future is not looking rosy for us. So we're going to be from our family tree, this is it. This is the last generation. And that movement's really taking off. And I guess what that means for us is that we can expect to see in the future, whether it be in the short-term future, medium or long-term future, we're going to expect to see a lot of young people migrating and taking any job, because there's no prospects over there in China. So we're going to get a lot more little brothers and little sisters coming over with tertiary education, with degrees. Some of them are even that we know of that left Australia with tertiary degrees that they've obtained here in Australia, went back to China thinking that they were going to be okay and were going to be able to come back. Now they can't even come back. So we've got this whole conundrum over there. So look, how early, it's only going to be determined by how quickly the government opens up the doors and opens up the tourism and also when things settle down in China. But we know that not a lot's going to happen between now and November. So post November, we could see a mass migration of students and holiday aficionados coming over, and then turning into as we call ghost migrants. With staying over long term just to work, just to earn a living, and they don't care. They're saying we just go anywhere around the world. If we get caught, we get caught because we are the last generation. So we just going to basically live our lives to survive. So that's in what's happening there in mainland China, Martin. Apart from what we'll talk about is Musconomics, and that this is a group of crypto enthusiasts in China that have been following the trades of anybody that's trading, close to 100 or above crypto coins or bitcoins per transaction. Look, I don't know how they do it. I'm not IT literate. I don't, saying very little about computers and that we don't mix. But these guys And this is, and again, the mainstream there have picked up on this, and the main commentators have picked up on in China, and basically been following the trades of what they believe is Elon Musk. Now, Elon Musk allegedly, they're saying there in China, from what we're gathering, is that he's offloaded close to 23,000 Bitcoins of the 55,000 or so that he was to have bought. So he's more close to 50% of his crypto portfolio. But then I'm sort of persuaded by what they're saying, but what they're saying is that in this Musconomics that we're talking about, is they're basically predicting the future, and they're saying if Elon Musk is saying that this is that he's cashing out and he's hedging his investments and cashing out, well, the economy is going to be dire in the future. But then when you juxtapose that to the commentary that's coming out of the US, and they're already talking, some commentators are talking about the Twitter rants that Elon's had with their president. But also the main commentators there are talking about potentially America going into not only a recession, but going into stagflation, which would be dire for their economy. So that's Musconomics, and they are therefore then in turn in China, these crypto enthusiasts are making decisions based on obviously they follow Musk very, very closely. And what's happening there, and it has an impact on their side of the equation as well, and what their future, what they're doing, and they're cashing out as well, obviously. So more pressure in the for the Kryptonians, I would imagine. And again, how does that translate to property? Well, are the Kryptonians here going to cash out early as well, and put the money in land or put in other investments? I don't know, but it was just an interesting event that's happening there in China.
Which is interesting because Elon, of course, the other day said he's got an uncomfortable feeling about the US economy, and that was the day after Jamie Dimon, who is obviously JP Morgan Chase, said there's a hurricane coming. He just doesn't know how big the hurricane is going to be, whether it's going to be a big or little one in the US. So there are more and more people who are expressing real concerns about the trajectory of the US economy. And of course, they're going to put interest rates up in a week or two, and RBA, of course, tomorrow here in Australia. So we are certainly in very uncertain times. And you have to say, with the current price of crypto, there's not a lot of joy there either. I was talking to somebody the other day who's, unfortunately, they bought in further up the scale, as it were, and they're now sitting on significant losses, and they're trying to work out, do I sort of sell now and eat my losses, or do I just hold on and hope it bounces back? So it just shows you that there's huge uncertainty wherever you look. And interestingly, that individual was hoping very much to use crypto as a way to increase the size of his deposit to do, guess what? Buy a property. So that's gone away as well at the moment.
Yeah, and look, and this is where obviously what happens with the WeChat chatters over there in China, and they're following Elon Musk and the transactions, or the crypto transactions, or Bitcoin transactions from whether it be from Tesla or Musk personally, following that as a guide. Obviously, that's going to have an impact and an influence here. But the WeChat chatters here have also, we said weeks and weeks and weeks ago that they were changing their perspective as to where they were going to invest, and they're looking at property. So with the local WeChat chatters, they're also listening to what's happening over there, and some are getting the information that we also are privy to. Not everybody's is privy to that information. You have to know how to search for it, where to look for it, and be a part of certain groups and ways. Ways to get in and out and get the right information before it gets deleted. But look, it does play a role in our property arena here, because again, as I said, the local WeChat chatters are also influenced by that. And we are not a very big property market, to not take into consideration these events that are happening overseas, as distant as we may see them, but they do impact our local market. So, and this, again, like we shared before, and with regards to the local charter, there's not a lot that's been happening other than what we shared before with you, Martin, and that was that the WeChat charters, the local WeChat charters, are actually using the platform as another, call it domain, as another REA to promote and sell and buy properties, land and property. Like I said before, it saves on agents' commissions, whether you get a deal, whether you get more, whether you get less. I mean, you have to look at it every single transaction. But the interesting thing is it's taking a lot of listings off the current portals because they want to transact directly. I mean, I've even been DM'd on Twitter with people wanting advice on how I can assist them to sell property, bouncing off of local listings in the area of what they consider to be similar properties, and they want to sell. So it's an interesting interesting times. People wanting to save money on sales costs as well as purchasing costs in order to feel comfortable with the transaction. So then I asked myself the question, obviously we follow the domain numbers because it's a guide that we've been using as a baseline for a number of years now. But over the last 3 months, how many more properties are really on the market for sale on top of the percentage that I've already allocated, the difference between domain and REA, to now this new method of selling where it's really taking off. And I mean, it's really taking off. When you look at these groups and you scroll through the groups, just about every other post is this house for sale, this land's for sale, this property's for sale, blah blah. And it's like you look at it, you almost think, hold on a minute, am I looking at Chinese domain or am I looking at Chinese REA? Because there's so many on it.
Well, it is very interesting, and I guess the transfers ultimately will end up in the count, the ABS report. Well, at least 5 months after the end of the quarter. So we'll get a read then as to whether there were more transactions than officially reported now. But there is something funny. I mean, there are so many funny things going on in the data that you just don't know where you are. But the implication would be that we've got very high listings, and in fact, the real listings are probably even higher, which means more people are trying to sell, right?
Look, definitely. And again, as I said, we look at all this information. We look at all these points. Gather all this information because it influences what our clients and what other people are trying to do, whether they want to buy or whether they're going to sell as well, and also it's influencing the rental market in the interim as well. So there's a broader aspect to the market that's generally talked about in the mainstream media. Hence the reason we take a lot of those articles, we just read them for shits and giggles, really, because they're not really reflective of reality. And look, that's just it. And that's what we're just gonna look at some of the interesting tweets and events that have been happening. We generally go over the articles. But there's been quite a lot of interesting things happening on Twitter, and sometimes what we see, what people are posting, what they're saying is more reflective of reality than, as I said, than the mainstream media articles. Albeit this first one, which we call it "Let's Not Spook the Market." Look, we could sit on this one for the rest of the evening, Martin, and talk about the how much we feel that the RBA are going to raise rates, why, the reasons why not, what's at stake, how's the government going to react, what are the implications, the ramifications. So I thought I'd put it out and have a brief chat with you on this first tweet, which basically outlines the financial review tweet on with regards to the Reserve Bank of Australia. It says that we'll likely increase the cash rate by 25 basis points of a percentage point on Tuesday, even with the money markets betting on a larger rise. So that's but there are a few things that we could discuss perhaps with regards to this and what they're trying to say? We've touched a little bit on the intro, but let's have a bit of a
Yeah, well, it is interesting, Edwin. I mean, the article basically says the reason they're going to go 25 basis points is they want to see what happens with the minimum wage, because, of course, there's now a review process in train, and, of course, the new government's put a submission in to say that people shouldn't be going backwards. So that would suggest a significant spike in wages. If that was approved, although whether it will be, of course, the business lobby will definitely be fighting against it tooth and nail. And just to reiterate, people are saying anywhere between, well, you said 15 basis points, so you're at the bottom of the range, right? Well, why not? Okay. 15 basis points, 25 basis points, 40 basis points. I've even seen some people say 65 basis points. It's interesting, Christopher George came out and said, in line with the AFR, 25 basis points is probably where it will be. So we'll wait and see. I guess my observation is if it is 25 basis points, that's a very benign lift. And essentially what it does is it signals the RBA will be slower in taking rates higher than perhaps the market was betting. So I'll be fascinated to see what happens to those forward expectations, because at the moment the forward expectations are of at least 2.5% by the end of this year and 3.5% in a year's time or so. So that may change. On the other hand, with the inflation probably going to be a lot stronger than the official number as purported, because of course now we've got the gas and the electricity price issue coming in too, the chances are that the real inflation rate will be a lot higher. It could actually even be closer to 8 or 9% in my view. And of course in the UK now they're talking about 10 and 11%. So these are huge inflation rates, which means that the rate of change that the RBA would need to implement to try and tackle that will be even stronger. So it's all to play for, and we'll, I guess, wait to see what happens tomorrow.
Well, that's right. Now, does that get us into the territory of stagflation as well, Mark?
Well, it's already, I think, very likely that that's where we are. So just to be clear, stagflation is when we have high inflation but not high wages, and when we have very little growth. Growth is already easing back. Now, of course, the GDP number that came out the other day was actually okay. It wasn't great, but it was okay. But it was fundamentally supported by two things. One was government spending, and the second one was actually household spending. Now, if interest rates go on going up and households feel less and less confident about their ability to spend because they're having to spend more on the mortgages and rent and things like that, chances are that they will not be wanting to spend as much, and that could actually weaken growth. And so if you start seeing weak growth there, and with the new government, of course, now worried about trying to actually control some of the government spending. They're doing an audit, of course, at the moment of government spending ahead of the budget that's coming up. We could well see maybe some areas where they pull back in terms of government spending. So, yeah, these are all the signals, to my mind, of potentially stagflation, which is the worst of all worlds. And once you're in a stagflation environment, it's quite hard to get out of it. The other thing that tends to happen is then you start seeing unemployment start to rise, and you start to see wages growth not rising but actually falling. Now, if those elements also start to play out, then we've got a long, slow grind, and the we there is not just Australia but also many other Western countries too are also now sweating about stagflation and whether in fact central banks have messed up good and proper, and whether in fact they'll be able to unwind it. And I was reading an article today saying, well, maybe the Federal Reserve can manage to get a soft landing, but they said it's very, 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 very unlikely because, you overshoot, undershoot. There are so many lags in the decision. You take a decision, nothing happens for a few weeks, and then it all sort of hits. So, yeah, interesting times. We'll know tomorrow what happens, but I wouldn't be surprised to see 40.
You got 40 from 15 to 65. Let's see where we land.
Yeah, I just take the middle ground as always. Now, what about this though? Agents acting as financial planners. Now, this was another interesting tweet, right? Which I think is really, really concerning. I've heard it before, and I'm going to hear it again. But these are estate agents really giving financial advice.
Well, it is. Look, and it is contrary to the Act and the regulations that we sit under. And this is where what we've been talking about for a long time. And this is where one of the reasons why I pulled away from the Real Estate Institute of New South Wales, because they didn't want to control this. And because quite a large portion of the what we call the property spruikers or marketing companies, you can't tell whether they're real estate agents or whether they're financial planners, but they moonlight as either or, whatever suits them at the time. And a lot of them actually, when you're a financial planner, they moonlight as real estate agents without a license, and a lot of real estate agents moonlight as financial planners without a license. So you're really trying to step on both sides of the fence. The only thing you're going to end up with is splinters up your ass. And I hope that they do get taken to task, and we hope that they do, in the future, get taken to task when people, after published ads, are referring to or alluding to what we would consider as financial advice. And this is something that a lot of agents don't realise, that the statute of limitations is about 6 years to chase somebody under, whether or not they're still active, because you could chase the insurance policy, the PI, the insurance policy that they held at the time. Now, and this is. So I think it's only going to get worse, Martin, because I saw a lot of this in the downturn of the early 2000s, and you started to see a lot of this and people pushing, to try. It's almost like, if I don't tell them it's going to be, it's a great investment, or it's going to go up in value, or if that's great potential, you can it's increase value of the land, blah blah blah. If I don't tell them all this, I'm not going to get the sale. So let's see if I can try and sweeten it, try and coach them into it. But all this flies in the face of the Act and the regulations, and you'll come unstuck, and you'll come unstuck not because you come unstuck because you're given financial advice under a real estate license. So you come unstuck because we are licensed. Somebody said to me a few years back, said it would, somebody to sell property or give advice, financial advice, it's better for them not to have a practicing certificate or a financial planning certificate or a real estate license, because you don't see it under any act or any law. But whereas when you're licensed, you come under a lot more scrutiny.
Yeah, and interestingly, I've heard accounts also of real estate agents advising people how to purchase property within the superannuation structure, and giving all sorts of hints and tips as to how to do it, and why it's beneficial, etc., etc. And again, I think people have crossed the line. And there needs to be much more clarity, it seems to me, as to what the limits of advice that agents can provide versus financial advice. And just to remember that financial advice is very controlled and very structured, and that means that essentially you have to put out an appropriate statement of advice and justify the position you're taking, and have all of those other ticks and crosses in place. And you have had to have gone through an assessment with the individual client, so you understand their position, and so you're giving tailored advice to them rather than just generic advice. This is a minefield, and unfortunately, I believe that a number of people have been deceived, nay, persuaded to do transactions they should never have been persuaded to do, simply because the agent is trying to sell a property.
Look, that's right. And you also get financial planners, you also get mortgage brokers and accountants moonlighting as real estate agents, wanting to slip their foot on the other paddock as well. And it all comes back to the commissions, Martin. It all comes back to how attractive.
Money.
in the real estate industry in comparison to a lot of these other things. From the real estate industry side of things, it's desperation of wanting to get the sale and motivate the purchaser to buy so they can get a quick commission. From the other side of the fence, financial planners, mortgage brokers, and accountants, it's because the commissions that real estate agents get for the sale of a property become very attractive. So they moonlight as real estate agents. So it's something that the regulators need to incorporate. The sale of land need to bring it under the umbrella of under that bigger umbrella. And as I've said for many years, as I've said for almost 2 decades, there should be disclosure in the contract of sale when people are going to be signing off. There should be disclosure of how much commission the party that's selling the property is getting. And I bet you, I can guarantee you, things will change at a million miles an hour, because when you start talking about sales, off the plan sales, where agents, spruikers, marketing companies, accountants, mortgage brokers, people that give that mortgage brokers and real estate agents that tell clients to set up self-managed super funds when they've got less than 100,000 and the super fund borrows money and all this shit that goes on, all because the kickbacks, Martin, on those sort of transactions are 3 times as much as what a normal real estate commission is. That could be anywhere between 5 to 8%. And when we're talking about $1 million properties, a 5% kickback or commission or marketing fee, or even an 8% commission, it's a hell of a lot of money. We're talking about 50,000 or 80,000 on a $1 million property. So that's a hell of a lot. So this is why I've been, writing about it, talking, blogging, trying to get the REI involved and to push that as well, but they won't, because there's too many stakeholders that are the pie is too sweet. It's too tempting. The financial crack, as I call it, is just too addictive, and they won't let go.
Absolutely. Well, money talks, doesn't it? And where money leads, people follow, unfortunately. Now, talking about people following or not, what's happening in God's country? It looks as though people might be not following.
I think, on face value, God's country may be going to hell, Mark. The 2234 postcode, maybe going to hell. Well, this is an interesting property for their followers. If they follow me on Twitter, they can actually read the whole thread. There's a lot of information as to the background as to the sale of this property. Because it happened over the weekend, I wasn't able to do one of those snap segments with you to embellish a little bit more on video what it's about. But look, in a nutshell, this property, the agent there that sold it, I know him very, very well. He said that a few months ago, it would have sold, earlier in the year, would have sold for 2.3, perhaps even above 2.3 million. But because it came on the market recently, 6-7 weeks ago, came on the market, the vendor was motivated to sell. He was guiding 2 million to 2.2. 2.2 was the highest range at the start. The owner was very, very motivated to sell, although the CMA, the comparative market analysis that agents give prospective vendors or sellers of property to take on the role as a selling agent. The comparative market analysis, the CMAs that agents in the area were giving this particular seller was in the mid twos. So a lot of them, some of them in the area were even a lot more bullish with regards to the price. Now, the fellow that took this property to sale took it at with a guide of 2 million to 2.2, then dropped the guide to just 2 million. There was a sale at 2 million. The sale fell over on a bank valuation. And I'm led to believe it was agreed to, the purchaser had agreed for with a cooling off, because otherwise you don't generally walk away from a 10% at that kind of price. So it fell over on bank valuation to 2 million. But in talking with the agent, we feel that that this particular purchaser was buying in with a very high LVR, hence the reason why the valuation didn't stick. So his solicitor canned that first contract. The owner was very motivated to sell, went back on 2 weeks prior to the auction. The guide was 1.8. And basically at 1.8, the size of this house, the size of the land, the location, it's going to put shivers in the spines of other people that are on the market in the 2234 postcode of the Shire, because it's a home that should have sold months ago at 2.3, and now we've got a sale of 1.8, and there are inferior homes currently on the market with guides of 2 million. So when this registers, or if the agency registers the sale online, which I doubt it they will, to be honest with you, but when the word starts getting around, it's going to send shivers in that 2234 postcode. That's Alfred's Point, Illawong, Barton Ridge, Old Lucas Heights, these areas there, Martin. And it's at 1.8. And guess what? The twist and the turns of things, the same buyer that originally offered 2 million and the bank rejected the valuation came short of the 2 million, bought it at 1.8 on the day of the auction.
I love the twist at the end. That's brilliant. But it does also illustrate what we're seeing quite widely now, and that is that prices are definitely in some areas significantly down. I mean, that's a big knockback from where it was just a few weeks ago, and I'm hearing that locally as well down here in the Illawarra. We're seeing the same thing, where prices are actually definitely taking a step back now. And if people want to sell, they've got to be, quote, realistic, unquote, which basically means you've got to take a haircut.
Yeah, you've got to take a haircut, and if you're going to be selling them, you're going to be you're buying in the same. You're selling and buying in the same market, or you could. Some will also take the punt; they'll sell and then hold and wait to see if it falls any further. But again, the indicators are stacked in favour of purchases anyway, because as you and I we chat and we're seeing the numbers are not going. The listing numbers are not going down.
No, well, we'll cover the numbers in a second. But before we do that, we should just talk about this thorn in the side of US, New South Wales fair trading. This isn't amazing, the rental space and story, isn't it?
Oh, look, it is. Parapower put this out, and I did a bit of research because we had a rent roll around the area. So I did a bit of research and did a bit of digging around, and I actually got a hold of the listing, and it was phenomenal. I looked at the photos. On face value, this is just a studio. I mean, again, on my Twitter feed, I put up a little bit more information on that rental listing, and it's shameful, Mark. It really is shameful because it's just a studio, or what we would call a sleep out. So therefore, it's really only just meant to be a sleep out. To sleep there on occasion, to be used on occasion, and even the floor plan that was put up when the property was for sale, listed as a guest living quarters. So it's really a sleep out. It doesn't have a formal kitchen. Therefore, the councils don't classify that as a studio or a granny flat. It got rented for $300 a week. Now, this is just, again, on face value, what I could see online and the information that I gathered from other people. It's my understanding that it doesn't have a smoke alarm. It doesn't have a smoke alarm. It's not council approved as a permanent letting. But this is the nature of what we're moving into with the lack of supply with rental properties and accommodation other than apartments. That the strata managers are not looking after in many parts of the west, northwest, west, and southwest regions of Sydney, because some of the apartment blocks, because of the strata levies, are so far behind. Maintenance of apartments are just going backwards at a million miles an hour, and they're becoming ghettos. as I did a video about 10, 11 years ago, the $1 million ghettos of Sydney. And here we are. So, when you, at least you could say you're living in a studio in somebody's backyard, and you've got access to a swimming pool and a little bit of open space. But from a legal perspective, it's not a dwelling for long-term letting. It doesn't have all the requirements to fit as a letting. So tenants, not only this, but in others that I've seen around Sydney and all over Sydney, you're just playing with somebody's life, somebody's health, and it's really something that fair trading needs to really get a handle on. And that's why I'd say it's a thorn in the side.
Yeah, well, it does make you question a little bit, doesn't it? What are the minimum parameters that can define a property as an adequate place to rent? And I would have thought there are some minimum requirements. Probably a kitchen would be a good thing. You are required to have a smoke alarm. You are required to have various other bits and bobs there as well now. And of course, in theory, you can keep a pet there too.
Yeah. So it's just one of the things. So I think it's going to be, we're going to see a lot more, and we're going to go back to what I used to see out in the West. When I was in the selling space of homes that had so-called granny flats or garages turned into granny flats, and they were just absolute dog boxes that something that you wouldn't put your dog in it. But yet they were being rented out, and we're back there. It's deja vu. We're back there again, except they're a little bit fancier, and they're charging a hell of a lot more than what they were in 2016, 2017.
Absolutely. Well, let's go on and talk about the numbers, because here we are now, deep into winter, and the numbers are still, amazingly high. Winter's
getting colder, and the numbers, new listings on market seem to be hot. The only thing that's taken a breather is for this long weekend is the sale by underquoting or by auction. They're half of what they were last week, less than half of what they were last week, but that's understandably because of the long weekend, and also perhaps it's also a wait and see what the RBA are going to do. I've shared with you this time around this week's listing numbers, or the start of this week with midweek of 2021, and you could see it's a vast difference in numbers in terms of percentages, in terms of actual listing numbers. As I said, we're not a very big market, and we haven't. We're already superseding 2020's numbers. We'll wait and see whether we start tracking above. 2018 will bring us back onto what what we're generally tracking, because 2019 was a little bit of an up and down as well. But we'll see. There's no changes. It continues to be a buyer's market, and that momentum or that emphasis of being a buyer's market just keeps on being amplified more and more as new listings come on.
Yeah, and apartments are still leading the charge in terms of the number, right?
That's right.
Funny that.
Yeah, it is interesting. I had a meeting with a large conveyancing firm today, and they're looking after, at the moment, they're looking after 3 apartment blocks in Sydney, 2 of which the buildings house anywhere between 150 to 180 apartments, and the 3rd building housed, I think from memory, it was about 90 or 95 apartments. We had a bit of a chat. There was they were saying, they were all enthusiastic, telling me how wonderful it was and this and that, and how no sales had fallen over. The valuations are coming in, no sales had fallen over, and the success rate was great. And even even those that were left to the side, they felt comfortable in selling those now at the moment. They were all very, very enthusiastic, Mark. And I said, but isn't that interesting how the secondary market, the established market around these areas we're back to 2019 figures in a lot of the buildings. Hint, hint. And then, but they still say, yeah, but Edwin, I don't know what, how come you're saying that the apartment market's, gonna, it's going backwards and everything. And then I just put it to the leading conveyancer, and I said, when were these properties bought, off the plan? Said, from 2019. So there you go. So we're
case proved.
So they're settling on 2019 numbers, right? So they haven't. Because they were under construction when the market was going up in late 2020 and right into the mid 2021 and peaking at the end of 2021, and now with a lot more numbers coming back on, we're going backwards. We've done a 80-degree turn, and then she says, "Oh, never thought about that." I said, "Well, food for thought. See you later. I've got to go."
Wow, that is interesting, and it shows you, a matter of perspective. It's all about perspective, right? That's what it really says. But the numbers are there. I don't see any change. I still think that people are being quietly whispered to by the banks. I've had a number of conversations over the last few days from people whose financial position has changed, and the banks are definitely and quite quickly now just encouraging people to say, look, your financial position has changed. We don't want to take you through the foreclosure route because that's long and painful, but we think it would be really sensible for you to list your property now with a view to being able to sell it and pay the mortgage off before things get worse. I think that's a very important indicator of uncertainty ahead. And, whilst officially, as we'll see in a second, the banks are saying, no, everybody's fine and they can withstand higher rates, the truth is that there are quite a few who can't, and there are a number of people. By the way, quite a few of them are small business owners whose businesses have now essentially stalled again because, of course, it stalled at COVID, it stalled when the second round of lockdowns came through, and then what's happening now is that with interest rates rising and the end of the lease moratorium, so that's now finishing at the end of June, which means that suddenly they're going to be up for higher rents on their commercial properties. They can't afford it because the businesses are just not firing. So all of those things are coming together. Another reason again why banks are now saying, hey, maybe it's time to just get out and while you're ahead. So expect listings to go even higher.
Well, that's right. And this is where, these are the different things that are countering a lot of this is one of the main things that's countering some of the other aspects of, what the argument of a soft landing or cushioning the falls, and also the construction industry, builders, and they're going broke, so therefore there's going to be less being built, all these sort of things. So it's going to come back to come back a lot for me, plays out a lot in the space of numbers, because again, I go back to the thing I say over and over again, we're not really a big market, and that market can be influenced greatly by the government policies such as the immigration particularly, and I'm not just talking about China, but from other parts of the world, and now Penny Wong is over in the Pacific Islands again, wanting to create this uniformity or to nestle them into our structure of climate change accords and climate change policies, and encourage them, I guess, to come over and give them jobs over here, which is effectively countering a lot of what the government would like to do here as well with regards to wage increase and the like. So we've got all these moving pieces at the moment that one's countering the other. But for me, what stands firm amongst a lot of this confusion with government policies, what could happen, what may not happen, is, it stands on top of everything, is the numbers on market for sale. across apartments and across homes. And because of this rate rises and comes in second, so therefore there's going to be less players on the market, less people on the market that are local people that are willing or are able to purchase, which then counters all the other government policies that we've spoken about, all the levers that the government could pull. So by far, and regardless of what the AFR talk about in this next article, as to they believe that although money was never going to be free forever, that borrowers can withstand higher rates, say Westpac, because people have got more savings because of the lockdowns and because of this or that. It's still I feel that the numbers on market still favour our argument that property is only going to get cheaper before it flatlines or it stops falling or it rebounds, and that'll be determined more so by policies around immigration and other forms of grants or subsidies or stimulus in order to try and get the win favour with the younger generation or those that are employed, those that want to buy a home, for the government to make it easier for them to come in. But right now, it's a buyer's market.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting on that article in the AFR that Westpac said borrowers can withstand higher rates. Very fascinating to them say, well, we're keeping an eye on whether there's going to be weaker discretionary spending. Now, it's interesting, I've just published my latest stress research up to the end of May, highest stress ever. And I measure stress in terms of how households are faring with terms of cash flow, money in, money out, and that includes non-discretionary spending, not discretionary spending. It's never been higher. And the other factor to bear in mind in my analysis is that rental stress has gone really high as well. So it's actually more than 2 million households in rental stress too. The point though is, of course, that people are trying now to hunker down, and I'm seeing that in my surveys, and I'm seeing that in the results. And that's partly because, of course, we know the cost of fuel, electricity, gas, as well as the Bowser is going up. Remember that the support mechanism that was put in temporarily will end in September for those thinking about fuel at the Bowser. And it's interesting also that I'm seeing in my surveys, and you've mentioned this too, Edwin, that some people are taking kids out of the private schools and putting them into the public schools. And so suddenly houses in areas where there are good public schools are attracting a significant premium.
Well, that's right, and this is where I say on my post, people that I talk to and in our discussions, and that is, you've got to look at the market more broadly, or more through the microscope a lot closer as to what the mainstream really put out there, and you really got to analyse it. And look at all these other factors. Now, as much as these writers, as much as the publications would put out, how we can withstand, or people with mortgages, people that are wanting to get into the market, they can withstand higher rates and everything. So jump in anyway. Willing. There are a lot of other factors, as you said. That in this article they talk about the discretionary spending, but the question also is what are they going to really spend? And when things start tightening up and there's the cost of living starts to increase for those with a mortgage, for those without a mortgage, let alone those with a mortgage, what are they going to do without? And they're going to start cutting away a lot of the stuff that I guess the government would like us to go out and spend and into be touristy like, and go out and go to restaurants and go to all these other to keep the economy kicking along. But people are going to start. Do you really need a steak, or do you just have a sausage at home? And the stake that you're getting out there, you're paying almost twice as much as what we were paying 2 years ago, and half the size, and it doesn't taste as good either. So, all these things are coming, coming to play, as you said. Cost of energy. Some are talking energy. Our energy bills are going to double by the end of the year, or at least till mid next year. And all these things are going to play a very, very significant role in the decision-making process of people that are buying and people that are selling. My point, as you referred to, that I sent to you for our chat tonight, is this one around schools. That is one of the discussions that many people are having out in the real world, and because not less and less people on a month-to-month basis can afford the $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 private fees, when now they're looking at areas in order to make the decision or the choice as to where they want to live and where they're going to what they're going to sell to move into areas where they're going to give the children a safe school environment, or an environment, a schooling environment that's going to nurture the gift that the child may have. So these are going to influence decisions made by people that are selling as well as buying, in the cost of properties around these areas. So again, there's a lot more to unpack when we start talking about current changes, change of government, change of policy, economic stability, and when you start reading these articles, and they just take such a broad brush approach to what they're saying without going into detail, it really it lacks the real substance that I guess our followers are looking for in order to make the future moves, whether it be going into a rental, into rental accommodation in particular areas and suburbs, whether it be buying, whether it be selling to downsize. All these reasons, all these things, all these factors that we talk about in our shows have a very, very significant role in the way that we're going to be moving forward. More so because there's so many moving pieces with the turbulence that's around at the moment.
No, I agree, Edwin, and we keep saying, and it's important to emphasise again, you've got to go granular, you've got to look at the local conditions and the various local elements which are influencing where prices are going. And I have to say, a lot of these puff pieces in the papers, which are very, very high level, just spinning a yarn, and they might be doing it to get eyeballs and clicks, but really they're not providing any useful advice or even news. You've got to ask the question, why are they writing them? Well, they're writing them because they've got to fill the pages with something. And, of course, it's anything to do with property often gets a lot of views. But, you've got to go granular, I think. And going granular, we should just touch on the statistics because, the auction clearances in Sydney are pretty low.
They are, and unless... I just can't see them moving back up. But if anything, they'll plateau. They'll plateau at the numbers that the Tarek puts out, or say Louis been putting out. They seem to be tracking low. Depending on what happens tomorrow, will also determine as to whether or not we go in the historical lows that since Domain have been tracking the auction clearance rates, and it's become a significant part of people's decision making into buying property. I don't know why, but
why?
But let's just leave it at that.
Exactly,
because it seems like one of the things that has been clear and more and more so over the years that we've noted, yourself, even Lindsay, David, you, myself, Lindsay, Tarek, and even Louis Christopher have been critical about it, and that is the price discovery or sales, and that is just lags a lot longer. It seems to be prices are hidden for a lot longer, kept off the main portals away from eyesight, and it's become a guessing game. And the main portals being domain and REA, they have got such rich and closer to real data, but they just won't give it out. So all these things are just going to get, again, it's just going to get more interesting in that space as well, as to see what they're going to do and how they're going to try and hoodwink the general public with as to not really pay attention to reality. But again, what we put on the show, what we have with Tarek, yourself, Lindsay, Louis, Christopher, I think it's rich information and more to reality than what the main publications of the mainstream are putting out.
Yeah, and I reckon that's a good tip for the week, actually, Edwin. Listen to other than some of the mainstream and the main property portals if you really want to understand what's going on, because there are sources that actually are much more relevant.
Look, that's right. And I just noticed, I was just scrolling up and I didn't put the tip. Let's just leave it at
that. Well, I thought seems a good one to end with. Edwin, I want to say thank you very much once again for sharing your insights with us. It's greatly appreciated on this rather cold, chilly Monday evening. And we'll do it all again next week. And we'll probably do another live show, sometime. That was quite fun last week, wasn't it?
Oh, look, it was. Let's do it again. Now, like I said, I'm open to whatever our followers want, and whatever makes it easier. And we can. I'm open for it. And perhaps I was even thinking about maybe they can send you some questions, and then we can have a segment of Q&A segment where we read out specific questions and give out some answers, because people have got questions and sometimes it's hard for them to get the right information. I get a lot of DMs on Twitter, and I don't mind, guys, folks. I don't mind. I do reply to as many as I can during the day. I may not get to them as quickly as I would like to, but it's very hard to answer questions when you're driving.
Yes, that's a very good point, Edwin. Thank you very much. We'll do it all again soon. Stay warm.
I will. And you have a good night, and enjoy the rest of your week, mate.
Cheers. See you later. Bye-bye.